As you all know, we want each event to be special, to have a certain theme. So today, in line with our mission, we wanted to have this mental health event. Now, before letting Nicolas, our psychotherapist, take the stage, I just wanted to let you know how the event will unfold. I will give the word to Nicolas. He will talk a bit about himself and about what he does. After that, we have prepared some questions from different topics like stress management, anxiety, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is something that he specializes in. He will answer these questions, but everyone is encouraged to ask follow-up questions or even some other questions if you have. We want to interact as much as possible. We'll continue this for about 25, 30 minutes. This is the first part of the event. After that, we will give the stage to Dope Silo for the after party.
Great. Thank you for that, Dan. And thank you everybody for being here so we can make the presentation about mental health and also discuss about any further questions you may have within the field. As Dan mentioned, my name is Nicolas. I work as a psychotherapist in Greece. I'm located in Greece. I was actually born in Sweden, a country in Northern Europe, and I started studying social work in Sweden. Um, After my studies in social work, I started working in hospitals, schools, with people that dealt with addictions. And simultaneously, I started my studies in psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. So for the last 2 years, I own my own office here in Greece, offering psychotherapy sessions. I do psychotherapy session in my office, but also online sessions all over around the world. So I have clients from the United States, like from the US to Japan, from Sweden to South Africa, all over the world. That's the beauty with internet. Someone of you mentioned that as well, that the internet changed the world, and it really does. What would we be without the internet? We would not be here. So it's always good having a background information about me if you want to reach out to me later on to know some things about me. And also, as Dan mentioned, we will try answering uh, some questions that we gathered. And of course, feel free later when we finish the presentation. You can ask a question or follow-up question, or if you have a comment, something, a reflection, anything is always welcome so we can discuss about it. That's why we are here. So the first question we have is stress good or bad for you? Where do you draw the line between bad stress and good stress? Maybe any tips and tricks to reduce bad stress levels. So we would say that as humans, we perform better under circumstances of some stress. Stress is something that alerts us, it sharpens us, it makes us get things done. But what is stress? Stress is nothing else but our personal reaction to an incident that happens in our life. Many times we refer to the fight or flight response, you may heard that, which are triggered from the individual when he or she encounters a situation which she may find stressful. And from that standpoint, stress is something subjective because some people get stressed when they encounter, for example, an exam, while others do not. Others may deal with the exam but get stressed out for something else, entering the elevator, for example, or being in closed spaces or some other types of incidents. But generally, we used to talk about sporadic stress and chronic stress. To answer the question, we would say that stress is both good and also bad at the same time. But the real question is, when is stress good and when is stress bad? So if we take an example like running, for example, most of you have run at some point in your life. Would we say that running is good or bad? Of course, it's both. It could be both. If we go out and run for 30 minutes, for most of us, it is something healthy. It promotes cardiovascular health and also mental health. But imagine if we ran 10 hours for 7 days a week. Then it becomes crystal clear that running becomes something harmful because we do not allow our body to rest and rebuild itself. And soon enough, we will experience aches and problems with our knees, our legs, and other parts of our body. So stress is something similar to running in that sense, because when we experience stress, it is important to relax, to rest, and to rebuild ourselves. Otherwise, it is like running for multiple hours for a whole day. It is something that I do not recommend, and it can be a remedy for disaster. So stress becomes bad when it's chronic, and when we do not have strategies or ways to recover ourselves from the stressful situations. Um, so imagine the following. We'll make the following analogy. It's like having a glass of water. Imagine that every time you experience stress, the glass fills a little bit. Normally, the glass would fill up even to a half in some cases, and when we engage into a stressful, into the strategies of recovering, then we empty the glass and we are ready to engage in a new stressful situation. But if we do not have the daily habits or of emptying the water inside the glass, then the stress, the water accumulates and it sets the basis for the next stressful situation. And at some point, the glass spills over. And that is where we start seeing more severe symptoms of stress, such as shortness of breath, insomnia, constant worry, aches in the body, digestive problems also is quite common, and many others. So to sum things up with this question, stress is something that sharpens us. It makes us alert in order to deal with difficult situations, but it's equally important to find ways to recover from it. It is very important. Another question we have, someone asked, what is cognitive behavioral therapy and what are its main benefits? Can we practice it by ourselves at home? We would say that cognitive behavioral therapy is based on some principles. The first principle we would say is psychological problems are based in part of faulty or unhelpful ways of thinking. So as a therapist, we try to find new ways of seeing things, providing different types of perspective. Very important. Also, another basis for cognitive behavioral therapy is that psychological problems are based in part on learned patterns of unhelpful behavior. So many times, and this has roots many times in our childhood, because we learn thinking patterns and behavioral patterns during our childhood. And many times these thinking patterns and behavioral patterns cement and we carry them for the rest of our lives. So if we learn unhelpful behavior and we carry that unhelpful behavior for the rest of our lives, it may create some problems. And as a therapist, we try to fix that. We try to provide different perspective and try to relearn. Also, people suffering from psychological problems can learn better ways of coping with them. We believe that. And thereby relieving their symptoms and becoming more effective in their lives. That's also something primary within the cognitive behavioral therapy sphere. Many times it also includes that an individual may face their fears instead of avoiding them. Also using role playing to prepare for potentially problematic interactions with others. Also learning to calm one's mind and relax one's body is also very important and a primary ingredient, I would say, in cognitive behavioral therapy. But all this boils down to that the therapist tries to raise awareness about the personal narrative an individual may have. So all people have a personal biographic story in their mind about themselves that they keep telling themselves. And sometimes the version of the biographic story creates problems in one's life. So cognitive behavioral therapy works to help the individual to put the story in order, sometimes to recreate it, to understand it in a better way. Because if we cannot understand our problems, our challenges, we cannot solve them. It is like maths. If we don't understand numbers, plus, minus, multiplication, we cannot go further solving the mathematical problem. We need to understand what we already have. And this is also the case for our personal challenges that we go through. And cognitive behavioral therapy can be very effective to raise awareness and understand, and therefore once awareness and understanding is established, we can start going to the more action plan, trying to experiment with new things, practical things, with new actions, thought patterns, and behaviors. Of course, all this can be practiced to some extent by oneself, by introspection, as we said, through reflection and looking inward, trying to understand his or her own situation. But a therapist always helps, and it's more effective when you do it with a therapist. Otherwise, therapists would not be around and we would not be needed. And so another question someone asked is how to overcome anxiety and how to help someone when their anxiety kicks in. So we talked about stress and we separated chronic stress from sporadic or acute stress. Chronic anxiety could be an indication that many stressful incidents have accumulated in the body and the individual has not found a way, a strategy to empty his stress. So to overcome an anxiety, of course, it matters how severe it is, for how many years the individual has struggled with this. This is where cognitive behavioral therapy is very important in order to get a clear image of one's situation. But we can try to say some general things about relieving anxiety. First of all, we need to minimize the stressful incidents that if we struggle with anxiety, it means that the glass is full of water and we need to start emptying it. One way of doing is to stop exposing ourselves in stressful situations. So for example, if you have a headache and you're hitting constantly your head to the wall, it is wise to stop hammering your head to the wall, not taking a painkiller and continuing hitting your head to the wall. We stop. It is important to search for the root cause of the problem, which is the personal behavior and how we respond to certain circumstances. And this involves thought patterns, so some of our thought patterns need to change as well. So try to look at some ways that can help us emptying the stress. Physical activity is very important to release stress, preferably outside so we can get fresh air as well. Prioritizing ourselves over others is very important as well. Many times people put themselves second, always trying to please others. It's very important that we take time for ourselves to recover, to do the things that we enjoy without guilt, which can play a major role with chronic stress. We try to improve our lives in multiple levels. Another thing that may help with chronic stress is breathing exercises that can help a lot. There are also studies that show that 10 minutes of breathing can help relieve stress and symptoms of PTSD. Diet is very important and sleep is also important. We want to ensure that our diet is balanced and we sleep well. So if we have dysfunctional sleeping patterns, we need to fix that. Organizing helps as well. Procrastination does not. So we try to organize our days so that the day serves us and does not leave us with emotions of resentment and guilt. So solving the problem of stress is a solution with many sides of solution. We need to improve our lives on multiple levels. So how to help someone with their anxiety when their anxiety kicks in? I would recommend that do not stress more if they are already stressed out. Try not to harm us, as the doctor said. Be around if the person wants you to be around. Avoid giving advice. Many times this can make the stress worse. Instead, be supportive with your living example, the way you are living. So if you have healthy habits, working out, walking, such as eating healthy, having a social life, etc., instead of telling your friend what to do, what's the right way of doing things, invite them with you, give them a hand. But if they refuse, do not try to educate them for what is best for their life. We believe that everyone knows himself better compared to what we know of others. So give out a hand, but if it is refused, respect that. And in most cases, people will find a way to solve stressful times. Another question someone asked is how to deal with bad habits such as addiction. For example, I have like a sugar addiction, like sweets, and if I have in my home sweets, it's kind of hard not to think about them, and I go eat them all. Um, or even if I like certain type of food a lot, I eat much more than I need to be full, or I eat late at night before going to bed. This is a theme that is very close to my heart, actually. I released my first book on how to stop the addiction of unhealthy foods, junk foods, and how that relates to obesity. It's something I could talk about like hours. The book is not translated yet in English. It's actually in Greek, but it will be translated in English within the following year. But to say some general things about this topic, if you find yourself struggling with some addiction or some bad habits, as we say, you will realize that the bad habit or the addiction gives you a short-term relief, but a long-term emotional pain. So it is a little bit tricky because during stressful times, your mind will tell you to engage in the addictive behavior or the bad habit in order to experience some relief from the initial stress you are experiencing. The mind is lazy and wants fast solutions. Dealing with any form of addiction, we want to think about how can I create a better life for myself on multiple levels so the addiction does not have any room in my life. So addiction is a substitute that fills a basic need in our lives. The act of addiction is though a wrong tool to use to fill up the basic need. So to make this clear, we will give an example. If I experience loneliness, for example, it contributes to emotional pain. Who is lonely and is fine with that? Most of people experience loneliness and experience emotional pain. There comes the lazy mind and says, you want some relief? Eat some pizza, smoke some cigarettes, drink some alcohol, have some drugs, anything. And there we go consuming the pizza. We experience some temporary relief, but afterwards comes the guilt. We may gain weight and we feel more lonely than the initial situation. And it's not that we should never eat the pizza or ice cream or whatever it is. It's about using the pizza to escape from emotional pain, from loneliness, for example. So one primary strategy to solve the problem of addiction is to realize that addiction is a tool that helps us escape from emotional, painful reality. And we need to find ways, strategies to deal with the emotional pain we are experiencing. And that means that when we experience emotional pain, we could not escape to the pizza, not escaping to the ice cream, to the pornographic material, for example, or to cigarettes or to other forms of drugs. We need to find ways to cope with stressful incidents or emotional challenges. And here, a therapist can do a magnificent work working with the individual to discover sites and help the whole situation out. So these were the questions, and feel free to ask if you have any questions. Always welcome to feel free to ask them, and I would do my best trying to answer them. Thank you. Thank you. So do you have any question, guys? Any thoughts, comments, anything?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. I know me as a human being, I have my own faults. I have my own, sugar, something simple as sugar, food. Definitely want to create a better life for myself in multiple ways. So thank you, because this is a motivating experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I would say you mentioned about having some challenges. Haven't we all? Like all people face some challenges, some smaller challenges, some others, some bigger challenges. No one is perfect, and this life is a lesson. We try to learn and become, as you said, better human beings, and that's kind of the purpose of life, to become a better human being. And it never ends. It only ends when we die. So, on point, absolutely.
Yeah, I also would like to say thank you. And actually, those questions, I mean, the one with the food and sugar, I mean, it was definitely about me. I was the one in the story or in the question. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely helpful to listen to that. And yeah, maybe who knows? Maybe I need some therapy sessions, and yeah, maybe we'll discuss after and see and go from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the biggest like tools for me on overcoming like concepts and addiction is perspective. You know,
Yes.
that was like the biggest, game changer for me, because it causes my mind to like create new neurons and create a change that is deep rooted in the body. So definitely, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that, Stilo. That's amazing.
Thank you. I know my friend
Yeah.
Rita here. My friend Rita and I, we've been talking about, sleep. How do we attain the best sleep at night? And,
Yes.
we were laughing about, I was saying, I turned my phone on airplane mode. She said, oh, that's a hard one for me, and, it's very interesting, right? Our new
Absolutely.
technology. Rita.
So, like we would say that we live in an era of addiction and dysfunctional sleep patterns, and what contributes to that are like many cases, but some general things are that we are not moving the way we used to move. Most of us have are working in front of a computer, sitting in front of a desk. We're not working with our bodies. That's why it's very important to walk daily, working out, lifting weights. It's because we are designed to work with our bodies and get exhausted. If we are not getting exhausted during the day, if we are not getting tired during the day with physical activity, there starts the problems with sleep. So if you try to improve your sleeping patterns, I would recommend try to wake up early, like 6, 7 a.m. and try to be active within the first hours of your day, like go out for walking or running or do some stretches or some yoga, bicycling, whatever comes to your mind and you're enjoying. And a healthy diet also helps in all this, because junk foods are not, it's not good for the body. And one also important thing is to try to not eat before sleep. Like have a window 3 to 4 hours before you go into bed with no food in your stomach. That will help the quality of sleep, and because when you have food in your stomach, it all the energy goes digesting the food, and the energy does not go to recovering the brain and the body, and that can help a lot.
I have a follow-up question regarding this about sleeping, getting. I'm not sure if this is the right way, but to say this, but I have trouble going to sleep. Like when I go to sleep, I basically just think a lot. Like maybe 1 hour, I just think about what I did during day and if I did something good or bad, or it's really, yeah, I'm having this intrusive thoughts, right, and just analyzing everything. So I'm not sure if this is
Absolutely.
common or.
It's quite common, absolutely, especially if you have a busy life, if you have many things, tasks. It's very common, very common. Uh, but there are some things we can do, like as we said, physical activity, and practice to surrender to what is, like not trying to control everything that comes to our mind. Some things are actually out of control, and trying to surrender to that what is outside of control can be a major um, can contribute to our better sleep patterns.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Okay. If anyone else has any questions before we're gonna maybe move to the second part of the event, the Silos concert? No one? Okay.